So let's take a look at interval notation. For interval notation, that's how we indicate where on our number line we're starting, we're stopping our shading. So that's how we indicate our starts and stops for our shading. So at the top, notice I have start, stop, because that's how we do it. The value you start the shading, the value you stop, and we're going left to right. I have a parentheses or a bracket on both the start and the stop, because you can use either one. If you use a parentheses on the start, that doesn't mean you have to use a parentheses on the stop. We use the parentheses when you cannot equal the value. So some of you have learned an open circle on your number line. That's where we're going to use the parentheses for those open circles. So if you want to go up to a number but not include the number, you're going to use the parentheses. If you can include the number, then you can equal it. And if I can equal the number, then that's when I'm going to use the bracket. So I'm going to use the parentheses when I cannot equal the value, so I'm not including it. And I'm using the bracket when I can equal the value, which means I am including it. When we have infinity and negative infinity, we can never include those. And so for those, we're going to use the parentheses. You're going to use a parentheses on negative infinity and infinity. And if we have more than one start stop, then we have to use this union symbol to connect the two and indicate that. So let's look at some examples. I've drawn them out with the open and closed circles. On number 1, we have the closed circle on number 2, the shading between 2 and 5, and the open circle on the number 5. So the first thing I want to draw your attention to is we're no longer going to use that closed and open circle. Instead, where that closed circle is, we're now going to use a bracket. Where the open circle is, we're now going to use a parentheses. So that way our notation on our number line is going to match that of our interval notation. So the shading starts at 2, it ends at 5. You include the 2, you do not include the 5. So bracket on the 2, parentheses on the 5. On the next one, we're including the 2. So that's going to be our bracket. But our shading starts on the far left. When our shading starts on the far left, that's that negative infinity. Shading on the far left is your negative infinity. So my shading is going from negative infinity to 2. I can never equal the negative infinity, so I use a parentheses. And on the 2, we can equal it, so we're using a bracket. On number 3, our shading is starting at 5, and it's going to the far right. The far right is our positive infinity. So we have 5 comma infinity. On the 5, it's an open circle, which means we cannot equal it. So we will be replacing that with a parentheses. And on infinity, we can never equal that, so that's automatically a parentheses. That takes care of number 5. For number 4, we have 2 sets of shadings. We have to the left of the number line, and it stops at the 2. So left of the number line is negative infinity, stopping at the 2. And that 2 we can equal because it's that closed-in circle. So we're going to put a bracket on it because we're no longer going to use those open and closed circles. We're going to use parentheses and brackets. Then I have another set of shading. I have one that starts at the 5. It has an open circle, so I'm going to use a parentheses. And it's going to the far right. that far right is our positive infinity. Positive infinity automatically is the parentheses, and I need to use my little union symbol in between. I need to use my little union symbol in between the two to say that I have more than one, and I need both of them. And our last example, number 5, we have the entire number line shaded. And so when we have our entire number line shaded, that meant we started at the far left and we went to the far right. That's our negative infinity to positive infinity. And that's our interval notation.